Hi there, welcome to episode 3 of Accidental Counsellor. My name is Jenny Richardson and I own a country pub. My pub is about 6 hours northwest of Sydney in a town called Coonamble. This is my story about how I became an accidental counsellor in a small country pub in a small country town. Last episode we found out about Singo, the unconventional copper, and an unsolved murder right here at the Bucking Bull. This episode I'm going to tell you a ghost story, which is why I'm here at night at Coonamble Cemetery. But first, a little information about the town's cemetery. Coonamble's original cemetery was on the eastern side of town and was in operation from 1869 to 1912, when it was deemed to be full and closed to further burials. In 1970, council converted the area into a park. In 1993, a federal government grant enabled the council to move the remaining headstones to the cemetery in West Coonamble, which had been established around about 1902. Several of my customers are now resting in peace at Coonamble Cemetery. Being a city girl, I hadn't been to many burials and therefore I really hadn't taken notice of cemeteries except on maybe a random car rally where you had to run amongst the headstones to find the oldest resident. Well, this cemetery is next level, especially at night. The local people pay attention to detail in burying their loved ones, maybe even picking a favourite colour or football team of the person passed to wear to the funeral. Balloons are placed along the route to the cemetery and an honour guard is formed at the gateway. Wakes can last for days. Once the mourning period has passed, the grave sites are decorated and maintained by the families. Solar lights, bright coloured flowers, ornaments and even full bottles of beer are put in place. They are truly pieces of artwork. The cemetery is a peaceful place and an ideal setting for a ghost story or two. At the end of the upstairs hallway, there is a huge window that looks out towards the main street. Of a night, it's not uncommon to catch my reflection in the window and make me look twice as I'm checking doors before bedtime. The first night I saw her, I actually had to look twice. I'd say she's about 16 years old. Long blonde hair, a long high-waisted dress with a crisp white apron over the top. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end and I wanted to run, but I stood still and stared at her. She was probably about 15 metres away from me and she just stood there too, before fading away. I slept with the light on that night, let me tell you. I've seen her several times since then and we both just stare at each other. One morning, about 2 a.m. after a big night in the pub, I was walking upstairs and felt someone step in behind me. My first instinct was to turn around, but something told me not to. I couldn't get up those stairs quick enough. Then I ran and slammed my door. It's funny how some things can make you feel calm and others not so much. When travelling tradies come in to stay and ask about ghosts, it's usually the apprentice who don't want to know. Some are very interested, but I always end with, you'd be silly to think that we lived in a 100-year-old building with no ghosts. During our research into the pub, we've discovered there have been a couple of publicans suicide. One hung himself, the other took tough on rats, a rat poison. But the young girl in the white apron is a mystery, but she is a comfort to me somehow. Believe or don't believe, I'll leave it up to you. The local wildlife gives us plenty of ideas for stories, but one of my favourites would be about the porcupine. Porcupine, I hear you say? That's not an Aussie animal. Well, porcupine is what the locals call echidnas. Two completely different animals, but apparently they are good eating. I have yet to see a porcupine or an echidna out here. Emus are native to Coonamble and are often seen from here to further into the outback. Emus are large flightless birds who can run up to 50 k's an hour. The Indigenous locals are allowed to take 2 emu eggs out of each nest if there are more than 2. When the emu appears in the night sky in the Milky Way in early April every year, this means the emus are laying and the eggs can be collected. When the emu disappears from the sky, then the eggs cannot be legally collected as a chick has formed and getting ready to hatch. Once laid, the female emu heads off to find another mate and the male sits on the eggs. The male then looks after the chicks for about 6 months. Emu eggs have the same quantity as 12 regular chicken eggs in them and make beautiful omelettes and sponge cakes. One of my regulars bought one in for me one day, and I made 48 mini quiches for bar snacks. Blown emu eggshells are also carved into incredible pieces of art, and I'm the proud owner of a couple of them. There are a few snake stories in and about the pub I've yet to mention. I think we might leave that to another time. The Castlereagh River is known as the Upside Down River. When flowing, it's the fastest flowing river in New South Wales. In drought time, the river can be a dry, sandy riverbed on top, but underneath the water is flowing enough to sustain fish life. I've been lucky enough to see the river spring to life twice in the 6 years I've been here, with fish being caught within hours of the fresh coming downstream. It is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. The whole town comes out to see the fresh arrive. It's a very exciting time. One day we had a new customer arrive. No one really knew him, but he was staying with someone sleeping on their floor. He was unwell and needed help. We gave him an old mattress and some bedding, which helped him at least be able to be comfortable to sleep. A few weeks later, he arrived from the doctor with a letter he was unable to read. The letter, when he asked it to be read to him, said he had a very short time to live and to get his affairs in order. He passed away a few weeks later. No one really knew who he was or where he'd come from. Next episode, we'll delve into the meaning of the C word, the SP bookie, and the mouse plague. See you then.